or you can access your manual. Okay, I'm just gonna wait for the recording confirmation. Yes, it's recording now. Okay, so let me also share my screen. Okay, yeah. So how do you access your manual? You access it by going to www.skillpipe.com. I'll also share the link with you guys. And then you will be required to register first. So since, well, if you don't have an account with SkillPipe, all you do is come to don't have an account and then you click join now. You will provide all the relevant information. You will click register. Once you have registered, it will take you to the login screen. So I'll just log in on my side. Okay. So upon your first login, um, you will be okay. Let me admit a few people who are in the lobby. Okay, there's only one. Okay, so on your first login, you would be taken to the screen. You would only see the screen on your first login after registering, and then this is where you will provide your code here. Okay. I'm unable to edit. Let me stop sharing and share again. Okay. Okay, now we are online, so I can now, on your first login, you will be, you will have this page, and then you will just copy and paste that license code that I've given you. It has, I'm not sure how many digits it has, but then it's divided into 4 portions. And then you'll paste it here. You will click redeem license key. And then after that, it will tell you that it's successful. And then you'll just say done, right? And then after it being done, you will have a PL100 manual. And then you can then get started to read, or you can download it for offline reading. So downloading it here doesn't mean that you will have a soft copy on your machine or anything. It will be downloaded here, and then you can go offline. That means it won't consume any data. Then you can also switch your PC's data or anything. But as long as you have already downloaded it, you can read it and you will be able to use everything that's inside the book. Okay, and then you can be able to see everything that we have worked on, everything that we have covered so far, which is module 1 up to module 3. And also I've done the recording for module 2, part 2. Hopefully it will be uploaded to YouTube before the end of today. Okay, so since we have covered module 1 to module 3, we'll then move to module 4, which is the business of the day. I'm gonna just cancel that, and then yeah, let's get the ball rolling. Okay. Um, in our introduction to Microsoft Power Platform, I've talked about having 4 main services that we're going to consume. Mainly, it's Power Apps, then it would be Power Automate, and then it's Power BI, and then it's um, Microsoft Power Virtual Agent, right? So, Module 1, Module 2, and Module 3, we have been looking at the 2 main parts that build Power Apps. So We are done with Power Apps, creating the apps in Power Apps, also looking at the database, and also all sorts of different connectors, right? And now we are moving to now looking at another product, and that is part of Power Platform, which is Power Automate. Now, in Power Automate, we will be looking at automating uh, processes within the organization. So let's get moving. Um, The agenda of this module, we will get started with Power Automate. We'll look at what is Power Automate, and then we'll get to look at how it's used, how can we use it, and then we will also use the admin center to manage environments and data policies. We'll get to look at the introduction to business process flows with Power Automate. And then we will also get to create an immersive business process flow in Power Automate. And then we'll also look at introduction to Power Automate security and governance. So now let's get started with Power Automate. Okay, what is Power Automate? Power Automate is an online workflow service that automates actions across the most common apps and services. And for example, you can create a flow that adds a lead to Microsoft Dynamics 365 and a row in MailChimp whenever someone with more than 100 followers tweets about your company. And when you use sign up, you can connect to more than uh, 220 services and can manage data either in the cloud or in on-premises source like SharePoint and Microsoft SQL Server. And the list of applications you can use with Power Automate, they always grow. They grow constantly. Okay, so as you can see on the side, you can use it with Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, Microsoft Forms, RSS, your SQL Server, Power BI, Azure DevOps, approvals. Uh, you can use Tweet as your connector. You can use Excel online. You can use also Dynamics 365. This is just a few of the connectors that Power Automate uses. Okay, and what can you do with Power Automate? You can use Power Automate to automate workflows between your favorite applications and services, sync files, get notifications, collect data, and much more. For example, you can automate these tasks. You can instantly respond to high priority notification or emails. You can capture, track, and follow up with new sales leads. You can copy emails, attachment. You can copy all email attachments to your OneDrive for Business account. You can collect data about your business and share that information with your team. And you can automate approval workflows. Okay, so these are just a few of what you can do with Power Automate. You can do actually much more with Power Automate. Okay, now we have a brief tour of Power Automate. Um, so first thing first, you would need to sign in to Power Automate. Uh, so let me go to Power Automate. Let me open a new browser. Okay, just like Power Apps, where you say make.powerapps.com, here you just say make the Power Automate.com. Oops, short of a K here. And then once you have clicked that, then you're inside you would be required to sign in, of course. Excuse me. Okay, and then this is what Power Automate looks like. When you sign in, you'll find this in the menu. You'd find action items where you can manage approvals and business process flows. Excuse me, please give me a minute so that I can drink water. Okay, excuse me about that. Okay, as I was saying, you'd find action items where you can manage approvals and business process flows. And then there's my flows, where your flows would result. So where you manage approvals is just here under approvals. So any approvals that you have received, you would get them here, and then you can see all the send and the history that you have, and then you have my flows. This is where your flows resides, the ones that you have created, and then we have create where you can create a new flow. Yeah, and then your flow can either be triggered automatically, or it can be an instant flow, it can be a scheduled flow, it can be a desktop flow, or it can be a process advisor. And then we have templates. Now, template is where you can take a look at some of the most popular templates. This should give you some great ideas for flows you want to try. And then we also have connectors where you can connect from one service to another. And then we have data. And then the data is where you can access tables, connections, custom connectors, and gateways. And then we also have we also have solutions. Just like Power Apps, we also have environments for your for Power Automate. Now, solutions is where you can manage all your solutions, and then you can move them around from one environment to another. And then we have AI Builder, where you can leverage artificial intelligence. We have the Monitor, where you can check all your cloud flow activities, your deck flow activities, all the runs, and everything that has to do with your everything that has to do with your flow. And then you have a process advisor. So this would form part of your business process flow. Okay. And then let's get moving. And this is everything that we have covered. I've showed you each and every aspect of action items, which is labeled approvals. This is where you would manage your approvals and business process flows. And we have actually now action items is divided into two. We have approvals, and then we have process advisor. As you can see here, now you have approvals. It's no longer action items, it's just approvals. And then we also have what we call a process advisor. So process advisor, this is where you would now have your process flows. Okay, and then let's get moving. So now we are looking at an example of a Power Automate flow. This is a purchase order approval, and then it has a trigger, and it is triggered from Power Apps, and then you get the manager, and then you start and wait for approval. So those who are aware, those who are familiar with the software, Programming, you would take this as your, well, this is a process flow. That means it moves from one process to another. Um, and how would, I'm thinking of another word to describe this, but then it just escaped my thoughts now. But then we will get to look at it. So these are just few steps. It will make sense once we create our own flow. And but then this is a purchase order approval, where a user starts the process by going into Power Apps, a app, and creating a purchase order request. Once they submitted the request, the information is sent to Power Automate flows. So as you can see, since we have Power Apps here, the user would go to Power Apps where there's an app, and then they will fill in the required information. Once they click submit or save or request, then this flow will be triggered, and then all the information will be sent here. Right? And then here we get a get manager v2. So we are getting the manager of that user who then triggered the flow, and then we are sending that information, the request, to that manager. And then once then we've sent that information to the manager, it's an approval, action here. So it will be sent as a in form of an email, where the manager would receive an email to say whoever requested to purchase the following items, and then it will have all the details, and then it will have approve and reject buttons, so that the manager can get to approve or reject. And then depending on the outcome, we use a condition. So the condition is more like an if-else statement. So the condition, we check the outcome, and then we check if the outcome is equals to approve. If the outcome is approved, then that means the if statement is yes. And then if the outcome is not approved, then the if statement is no. So then you'll get a condition which has an if yes, and then it has an if no. So hence I call it an if-else statement. Those who are familiar with programming, they would um, kind of relate. Okay. Um, Apologies for that, kind of jumped off. And then once that is done, I'll just take this. Once that if it's done, if this is true, and then here we are checking also, we are using another condition to check if whatever that purchase order is greater than 10,000 rands. And then if it is greater than that purchase order, all the items that are there are greater than 10,000, then we ask VP for approval, which will send the approval to the VP to say that, okay, whoever has a purchase order which is greater than 10,000, if not, if it is less than 10,000, then we will just say your purchase order is approved. We'll send an email back to the requester to say your purchase order request is approved, and then we terminate the flow. Okay, and then here we check if it's yes, it's greater than, we will then get to approve. And then if they approved, if the VP approved, then they will receive an email to say your 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 request has been approved. And then this is the if the outcome, the manager has approved. If the manager hasn't approved, we will just send an email. We will not do any other steps here. We'll just send an email to the requester to say that your purchase order has been rejected, and then maybe it may have reasons, and then you would state the reasons also in the email. Okay, let's get moving. let's look at types of Power Automate flows. We have event-driven, we have business process flows, and then we have UI flows. Okay, now event-driven flows are flows that you build with a trigger and then one or more actions. So this event-driven flow, you can take your purchase order as an example of a event-driven flow. An event has to happen. What's that event? In our case, the example is that a purchase order has to be placed, which is an event, and then that flow is then triggered. And it also has a trigger. Whenever you submit, then a trigger is then the flow is triggered. And then there are multitudes of triggers and actions available, and thanks to the existing connectors, you can use a tweet as a trigger, and whenever someone tweets, that can be a trigger. It's an event also because you have to do something. You have to do an action first. You have to do something. You will see there's as many flows and team flows in Power Automate. And the only difference between my flow and a team flow is ownership. With my flow, you are the sole owner, while a team flow has more than one owner. So we'll also get to look at building a Microsoft Teams flow, and then a Teams flow is owned by more than one user. Okay. And then we also have a business process flow. So a business process flow, we have already covered it when we were going through a model-driven app. So these flows are built to augment the experience when using model-driven apps and the Microsoft Dataverse. You use this flow to create a guided experience in your model-driven apps. And then we have a UI flow. Um, these are robotic process automation flow, which allows you to row yourself performing actions on your desktop or within a web browser. And you can then trigger a flow to perform that process for you. You can also pass data in or get data out of the process, letting you automate even manual business processes. Okay, and then let's look at the key concept of the flow. So every flow has two main parts, especially event-driven flows. We have a trigger and we have one or more actions. So already, I think I've stretched it. I've stressed it from module 1, module 2 until module 3, even though we never got the chance to look at how it works. But then I I have talked about a trigger many times, and I've talked about having an action. So a trigger is the starting action of the flow, such as a new email arriving in your inbox, or a new item being added to a SharePoint list, or a tweet being posted, or a purchase order being submitted on Power Apps, or any other action that you can think of in sort of an application submitting something, or a leave request also being submitted. And then in this instance, let's say you are using uh, Power Apps instead. We can make Power Apps as a trigger. Okay, and then we have an action which is one or more action. We have one or more actions, and this is what you want to happen when a trigger is invoked, such as start the action of creating a new file on OneDrive for business. So, example, an action that was done on the purchase order is that when a user submits, when a user submits when a user submits the purchase order request, we first do the first action would be getting the manager of that user. Then after getting that manager, we do another action, which is sending, as initiating an approval, right? And then after that, we do another action which we are checking the approval if it's after that we have a condition to check whether the approval whether the manager has approved or not. And then within that condition, we have other actions that are happening. So then that's those are actions. So ideally in your flow, when you open your flow, the first thing that you'd see would be your trigger, and then the trailing things or the steps that are after that would be your actions. Okay, and then here we have a demo of building a flow. Here you would create your first flow in the student manual, and then also here you would learn how to use Power Automate mobile app. And then also you would retrieve text and email notification from flows. And then you would copy files with flow. And then you would create a reoccurring flow, and then you'd send an email when a tweet is posted. And then you would create a Teams flow, and then you'd look at troubleshooting a flow. Okay, so let us now get to do all those. Even though these are in your student manuals, I will just create a glimpse of what you can do. Okay, I'm gonna come to create. So we have different types of flows, right? I'm gonna start with a scheduled flow. A scheduled flow is a flow that runs after a specific time frame, right? So I'm gonna repeat this every 30 seconds so that we don't waste time. Let's say PL 100 demo flow, demo scheduled flow. And then we will start today. What time is it now? It's okay. I wanna start that as soon as possible. Let me check the time. Okay, I'll start from here. Okay, I'll click create. Okay, so already you see we have the first step. This is the reoccurrence. That means this is our trigger because the flow is scheduled every 30 seconds. So, and then we can have an action. What action can we have? Let's just send, yeah, let's just send an email. Send an email, but then I don't want to receive a lot of emails. What I would prefer to do, I just prefer receiving a Teams um, send send message to Teams, something of the sort. Post message in Teams or channel. So what I'm doing here, I can definitely send it to my emails, but then my emails, I can't actually allow an influx of messages to just enter because I might miss important emails. But then instead, I will just send it to Teams. You'll get to see how it works. So I will send it to a chat with a flow bot. And then the recipient will be me, of course. It's Philip. A.calls. IT thing. I can just say hello. And then it can be as simple as this, right? Um, you are allowed to recur at most every 60 seconds. So I should do at least 60 seconds. And then that's it. So after 60 seconds, this should be triggered, but then I'm just gonna say trigger it manually from now, and then it will be triggered every after 60 seconds. And then if I open my Teams, I should have a message to say hello. As you can see here, it says hello. And then after another 60 seconds, I should receive an hello. I should receive a hello again. And you can actually do quite a number of things, right? And also, there are number of reasons why you might want to use reoccurring flows. Okay, as you can see, I'm receiving another hello. Imagine if you had a requirement to say every Friday, maybe you should remind employees to do what? Maybe submit their work or just do something, right? So you would need to do this flow, or maybe each and every month you would need to remind employees to maybe check their leave days, or to check whatever you might want to check each and every day, each and every month. Other companies, they need reports each and every month from specific users. So you might want to also do that, isn't it? You might say each and every time, each and every month end, I'd want to receive a I'd want to receive reports. So you would send reminders to say hello, or to say good day, please submit your report, or your report is due. And you can also not only do that, you can also check if that user has already submitted their report. And then if they have submitted their report, you will then skip them and then go to another person, those who haven't submitted their report, something of that sort. So you can do far more complex things. As you can see, our flow is running every 1 minute. It sends a hello message. So that's our first Power Automate flow that we have. So now I'm gonna just go out and stop it. Okay, and I'm gonna turn it off so that I don't get a lot of 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 emails, right? And then we also have a flow checker. This is where you would essentially get to troubleshoot if your flow is working or not. The flow checker gives you some sort of idea where you have errors, warnings, and everything. So now I have a warning to say that my flow is off, so it won't be triggered. I won't get anything. So that means it's not working because I turned it off. And then also under here, you have just a few things. You can export your flow. If you are done working with your flow and then you want to move it to another environment, you can export it, and then you can submit it as a template. You can also view the analytics of that flow, and then also you can view the last 28 days run history, and then it can tell you if it failed. It can tell you that this is where it failed, and then you can just, in order for you also, this is part of troubleshooting, right? So you would also you would look at that flow where it failed, and then you will click on it, and then it would essentially give you ticks. You see, if this runs successful, it will give you a green tick. It will give you a green tick. If you have some sort of a complex flow, wherever your flow crashed or stopped, it will give you a red cross, some sort of a red cross there. And then you would ideally click on it, and then it will tell you what went wrong. So that's part of your troubleshooting. Okay, and then now that we have created our first flow, let's look at creating a new one. And all the flows that are off, you would see them, they are highlighted like that. Okay, And then let's create another flow. Yeah, let's create an automated one. We created a scheduled one. Let's create an automated flow now. So an automated flow would essentially have a trigger. So a trigger can be your connector. So here, what do I want to do? I would want to check for Twitter. Yeah, Twitter, it would be my trigger. So here, let's just say PL 100 demo Twitter flow, something of that sort. And then I'll create, right? And then here, search for text. So here you can specify the user, you can specify whatever you want to search for. So here I'll just say hashtag, let me admit someone in the lobby. Okay, here you might want to search, maybe if you want to search all the hashtags and everything, here I'll just say hashtag PL, let me just say PL 100 rocks, something of the sort. Or I can say hashtag PL 100 training with PA Cosa. I know it's very long, hey? Um, and then once we search that, I can come to actions here. I can send an email or I can post. I'll post. Well, okay, because I didn't show you how you would send an email, let me just send an email because this would only be just one. I will send an email and then I will send an email v2. And then here, I'm sending the email to Philip. Um, I'll use my IT Think account. I will just say new tweet. Um, and then I can get information. I can get information from the tweet itself that has been posted, right? So I can come here and say, maybe I can say who tweeted this. Maybe I can say tweeted by, and then this would give me the user, and then I will just say tweet, and then this is the tweet, and then the media URLs and everything. And then if I want also the tweet name or whatever, the tweet user. Oof, yeah, this is constructing this is difficult. Twitter user, something of that sort. And I can say name, and then also I can get the location, the username, the description, the tweet ID, everything that I want, I can actually get from here. So just from searching this, whenever someone posts anything that has to do with that, I'll receive an email. So I'm just also gonna copy this, right? I'm gonna save and I'm gonna log into my Twitter. Yeah, no. So logging into my Twitter, I'll definitely have to stop sharing and then share once I've logged into my Twitter. Okay, just give me a few seconds so that I can log in. Okay. Okay, now I can share my screen that I'm logged in. Okay, now that I'm logged in, so I will just come here and then say that hashtag, and then I can say maybe training. Let me just say IT thing academy training PL100 by Philip A. Cosa. And then I can now say tweet, right? So because of that, then my tweet should be triggered, and we should just wait for the tweet to be triggered. Whenever there's an error, I would get a flow checker. The flow checker would just give me a red dot there to say that there is an error. And look at that. We have a tweet that succeeded. Your flow ran successfully. So if I come and open my emails, I should have something. I should have something inside. Okay. Okay. And as you can see already, I have the body of that. So if I come to my email, here's a new tweet. Which is tweeted by Philip A. Koza1, and then the user is Philip underscore A underscore Koza. And then here's the tweet, hashtag PL100 training with PA Koza, and then IT Think Academy training, PL100 by. And then that's an automated flow. So you should definitely look at other flows that are in the manual, do them, and then yeah, have some fun. Have some fun. What I can say is that don't limit yourself. Whatever idea that you have, do look at it. Okay, now we are going to look at how to use the admin center to manage environments and data policies in Power Automate. Okay, so you can create a flow and perform administrative tasks in a browser, or if you download the Power Automate mobile app on your phone. And here are some of the tasks you can perform with the mobile app. You can turn on or off from, you can turn flows on or off from wherever you are. You can see when a flow has failed. You can review detail, run history reports. You can view and filter runs by notification type. Um, so as I've shown you where you would get those that information of turning on and off, and then of seeing how you can see whether the flow has failed on your 28-day run. And also you would receive an email to say your flow has failed, right? And then you would also be able to see the run history reports, and then you can view and filter runs by notification types. Okay, and then also we have the admin center is the central location where tenants, admins, and environment admins manage an organization's data policies and environments. You can import and export flows, you can share flows, and you can monitor flows. And also, if you are the owner of the flow, you can definitely do that within Power Automate. Okay, and let's look at environments. Yo, we have touched on environments for quite some time now. An environment is a space where you can store, manage, and share your organization's business data, apps, and flows. You can create separate environments to group the test and production version of your app. You can create separate environments that correspond to specific teams or departments in your company. And each environments hold the relevant data and apps for each team or department. You can create separate environments for different global branches of your company. You can build all your apps in a single environment as well. So I've touched on environments. I'm just gonna move. I'm not gonna try and waste time. So I've showed you how to export. Also, I can also now come here. Either you can export from here, or you can just come here under your my flows, and then if you click on this button here, you can export. You can turn off as well. You can view the run history, the analytics. You can look at the repair tips and everything that you might want to do. And then to export, you just simply just say export, and then just say package.zip. It will just bundle everything up and take all the required information. And then once that is done, you will be able, you will give it a name, PL100 demo. And then if you want to specify the environment, you would also, and then these are the setups that you might want to do, right? Um, for now, this you wouldn't want to do anything. So here you wouldn't want to do anything because you would select all the connectors during your import. Okay, so and then you will essentially just click export, and then it will export, and your package is now downloadable. And then there we have a flow here. So and then I can go to another environment and say import, and then I'll essentially import that flow. Right, so here I'm on IT thing default. Maybe I can come to IT thing smart solutions. And then under IT things, smart solutions, you don't have any flows. So I can import that flow. I can import it from a package. And then I will click upload, and it should be under downloads. And then there it is. I'll open. Okay, and then this is how it is. Here I don't have to do anything. I can just here the Twitter connector. I can create a new connector. And then that connection, I'll search Twitter and create. And then I will provide my information, and I'll authorize this app. And then once I've created the connection, then I can come here, refresh the list. I should be able to now have some sort of a connection. And then, so here you would ideally use the company's Twitter handle, but then yeah, I'm just using mine. Here, we need to create an Outlook connection. New connection, and then there's for Outlook. And then at most it might require me to sign in, but since I'm already signed in, it shouldn't take much time. And then since I have that, now I can refresh and then select and save. Right, and then what would be left would be this one. I'll create as a new flow here because I'm not updating an existing flow. So hence I'm creating it as a new flow on this environment. And then I'm importing, it's going to import. And then once it has imported, then I'll be able to use my flow. So essentially we've killed two birds with one stone. I've showed you guys how to export as well as import. Now, as you can see, it was successfully imported. So if I go to my flows and refresh, give it some time, it should then show me that flow. Then there we have it. And then because it's exported, it's turned off, then I can turn it off on. Then once that is on, then I'm able to use my flow. Okay. Export a flow and import a flow. After a flow has been exported, it can be imported by anyone that you send that zip file to. So I've done both. So, and also that means I've covered the export and import of the flow. And then we have the distribute button flow. This is in the manual. So then please do have a look at it. Okay, and then now let's look at the introduction to business process flows. We have covered this, so we're not gonna spend much time looking into it, but then we'll just look at we'll just refresh our minds. Okay, so a business process flow is a series of ordered work steps that user completes within a business process flow. As you can see here on our diagram here, we have one which is what? Assessment. And then here we have activate. And then assessment requires the following steps: 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you click next stage, and then it will take you to the next stage. Okay, and then let's look at the business process flow. It's a guided roadmap. It's a guide rather, or a roadmap, or rather a recipe. And then it has stages and steps, and it has stage gating, it has conditional branching, and then it include multiple tables. You can switch at any time, and then it is role tailored, and then automation. It has automation and developer APIs. Right. So here are your stages. First is the qualify stage, is the develop stage, is the propose stage, and then this is the close. And then here are the steps. So the steps are what you have to fill in within that specific stage. So under qualify, you would be required some information. And then once you click next stage, you will come here, and then here it will require you the steps. And then once you're done, and then you go to the next step, it will require you those steps going on and on and on and on and on. So in Microsoft Power Automate, a business process flow is composed of a series of discrete stages that leads a user along a path towards a process completion. And each stage contains one or more columns called data steps, and that you should complete before proceeding to the next stage in the business process flow. And a business process flow visually guides a user through a series through stages, or rather a series of stages within a process, and shows progress towards process completion. And the user can also see which stage that they have completed and which stage they still have to complete within an instance of a process. So take it this way. If you are a developer, well, I assume you're all developers, right? One of the aspects that you should be aware of is UX, user experience, right? And especially in applications where you need data from the user, right? So whenever you need data from the user, you have to be careful in the manner that you require that user to fill in the data. Um, Excuse me, people might be in the lobby and I might not see them, so I need to have some sort of a view. Okay, so you must be careful in how you request that data from a user. You don't want to request a lot of information all at once. Let's say you have a form, right, that needs to be filled in by the user, and then it has about maybe 50 columns that you need to be inserted by the user, right? So those 50 columns, you can't give them all at once to a user. Reason being, once the user see all those things in a single page, they would they would highly not even think about starting it. They would just look at it and say, no, this thing is long, I'm not gonna do it. And that's it. But then if you have about 50 columns or 50 inputs of data that you require from the user. What you can do is maybe you have 5 stages, divide that data into 10, those columns into a number of tens, and then you actually categorize all those columns and say maybe this is related maybe to personal information, this is related to educational information, this is related to postal or address information, residential information, and all employee information and all those things. You categorize them into stages rather, and then those stages would have your columns as your steps, right? And then if you do that, then the user will get some sense of interaction with the application. Then they would want to fill in those 10, and then they would want to move into the next stage. Once they get into the next stage, they would obviously want to move into the next stage. And then that encourages the user because they would be able to see their progress. Oh, I've finished 2, now I'm left with 3. Oh, I finished 3, I'm left with 2, So a business process flow also helps you in terms of UI. It guides the user, and not only does it guide the user, it makes sure that you get all the required information within that specific application. Okay, let's get to move. Then let's look at when to use the business process flow. You use a business process flow if you want to create an automated business process with Dynamics 365 solutions. If you want a simple visual guide to help users complete a process. If you want to use out-of-the-box business process flows, and if you have a Dynamics 365 license and want to create automated business process with Dataverse. Bear in mind, we have Power Automate flows, we have business process flows, right? Or rather, Power Automate flows, we can call them event flows, and then we have business process flows. Those two things are very different from each other. So you should be aware of that. And now that I'm talking about it, let's look at how is it different from a Power Automate flow. Now, a business process flow offer the following benefits. And also, you should also keep in mind that a business process flow is a visual guide. You hear a visual guide that is meant to help users complete a business process by using a set of predefined stages. And users are not limited on how long they run a business process flow or how long they have a stage open. Okay, so it's worth noting that whenever you start that process flow, you are not timed to say, no, you should complete it by this time. Because you took this long, you will not proceed to the next stage. That's not how it works, right? And Power Automate flow does not have any visual components like a business process flow. And Power Automate flow can be configured to work with many different data sources, different data sources, and a flow can connect to many different data sources within the same flow. So, for instance, um, Power Automate Flow, I can connect to SharePoint, Twitter, SQL, all at once. Get data from all those different things. I can connect to the emails, to Outlook as well, right? Get information from Outlook. As you've seen, my trigger was the purchase order. The trigger was Power Apps, and then we get the manager. Where do we get the manager? We get it from Office 365. Office 365 is a connector on its own, which goes and looks at the roles of a person, who they report to, which obviously it would be their manager, and then we get that information from Office 365, right? So it's very, 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 um, rather Microsoft 365, it's very, very important to actually know that with Power Automate, you can connect at a lot of things all at once, right? And then a business process flow, they offer the following benefits. It offers improved outcomes. Also, if you require more like 50 steps of data, if you broke them down and then make a certain required and make sure that a user doesn't move from one step to another, one stage to another until they've required, that means the outcome would be improved. You would get consistent data, and then it would give you consistent stages that work and work steps across all instances of the process. And then you'd have improved data collection and reporting. And then you'd have decreased time to complete the process. And then you'd have predictable outcomes. Okay. And you can see here it doesn't talk about any approvals, we collecting data from the user. And then it gives us some sort of improved collection of that data, improved outcome, and then it gives us some sort of reliability in whatever we do, in the information that we are taking, right? So let's look now on when to use um, a business process flow and when to use a process flow. Right? You use a business process flow when you want to create an automated business process with CDS, or Common Data Service, or rather Dataverse solutions. And then you use a business process flow if you want a simple visual guide to help users complete a process, if you want to use out-of-the-box business process flows, and if you have a Dynamics 365 license and want to create automated business process with Database. Right? And then you want to use Power Automate Flow if you want to start a start based on a predefined time interval, or after an X amount of minutes, hours, or days of some actions or event. And then if you want to trigger a flow based on data outside of Dataverse, for example, you would use SharePoint or Twitter or SQL, a lot of connectors that you might want to use. And if you do not want to store data, if you do not want to store data that is captured in the flow in Dataverse, and then if you want to push notification outside of Outlook, like SMS or Gmail, for example, and if you want to use and create workflows with only an Office 365 license, right? And then that's how you would want to use those two platforms. They are different, but then they all end with flows, so don't mix them, right? Now let's look at creating an immersive business process flow. I've created one process flow already. And then we have two types of business process flows. We have an embedded, which is embedded within a model-driven app, which is what we already built. And then we have an immersive, which is a standalone flow, right? And then let's look at launching a business process flow. So a business process flow can be launched as a component of a model-driven app or as a standalone application within Power Automate. It's called an immersive business process flow as shown in the following image. So as you can see below there, this is something we have built already. The time we were building our model-driven app. Okay, and then you can create it by following what do we call? By following the student manual exercise. And then also I will share just a few links on creating the exercise, on creating this on Microsoft. Okay, so let me try and get those links, then I will share them on the chat. Okay, the first exercise is create an immersive business process flow. Oof, I need to format this. Okay, font size too small. Okay, let me make it medium. Okay, and then below I will attach the link. And also let me make the font to be a little bit okay. And that's an exercise for creating an immersive process flow. And then I have another exercise, which is to run the business process flow and view the data. I will post it on the chat as well. I'll obviously need to format it. Make it medium. And then share the link as well. Okay, please do follow the links, do the exercise, and then wherever you get stuck, let me know. Okay, and then let's get back to it. Let me share my screen. Okay, let me first. Let me try and share my screen again. Please confirm once you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Yeah, I've been doing all the talking, guys. Can we see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay, thank you. We are almost about to finish. So I would want to get any questions that you guys are having. Do you have any questions as yet? Okay, I assume we don't have any questions. So let's look at introduction to Power.
So
Okay. I see we have, is it Cecile?
Yes, I was asking, said, do we have to do the activities like now, or we can do it after the class?
Yeah, you can definitely do them after that class. So, do them after the class. Usually, how we structure these lessons is that you get, we do lessons, and then the following day you get to do the exercises, and then after we get another lesson. So if you notice, we have 3 lessons per week, and then in between those lessons we have days where you get to do the exercises. So you can definitely do them after this class. You can definitely even do them tomorrow. And then where you are stuck, you can definitely contact me, um, and then I'll be I'll be glad to help.
Okay, thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay, now let's look at introduction to Power Automate Security and Governance. Okay, so we have already looked at Power Platform environment, right? Um, Here you would identify the Power Platform environments, and environments are an important consideration when you're trying to help secure and govern Power Apps and Power Automate usage, right? So if you want to use Power Apps and Power Automate, you should always be cognizant of your environment. You should know where you're creating your 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 applications, where you're creating your flows as well, right? And then um, let's move, right? So when working with your applications, like your Power Apps applications, you would be working with um, information from your database, from your SharePoint, your SQL, and everything. So it is very important to note that each and every organization has policies regarding data, regarding its data, right? You might have a specific rules that says data within an organization shouldn't be deleted after a specific, it should be deleted only after a specific period of time. Also, in companies that work with some sort of what retail, for instance, they have to keep a copy of invoices or a copy of receipts, online receipts, for a specific, also all the purchases for a specific number of period. It can be 3 years, it can be 5 years, it can be more than that, right? So there are rules in each and every organization to say, okay, we want to keep data for this specific time frame. And then it's very important to make sure that you put in place policies that make sure that um, data is not lost within that time frame, and also data is not just deleted anyhow by anyone, right? Hence we have DLP, which is called data loss prevention policies, which allows organizations to construct rules that permit and prevent connectors from communicating with each other within the same flow. And also it makes sure that data doesn't travel where it's not supposed to travel. So Microsoft accomplishes this task by establishing 2 data groups: business data only and no business data allowed. So the intent of these 2 data groups is to put connectors that have the same data profile in the same data group. And grouping connectors means that they can actually communicate with each other within the same data group, but are not able to communicate across um, data groups. And to illustrate this concept, consider the following scenario where connectors have been distributed across two data groups. You want to build a, okay, let me approve someone who is in the lobby. Okay, where was that? When when you eh, eh, um, when you want to when you have data that have the same distribute that have been distributed across the two data groups, you want to build a flow that includes Microsoft Word online approvals and Power BI connectors, because all of these connectors belong to the business data only data group. You can confidently create and run the flow. So similarly, in the now business data allowed data group, you can combine Salesforce, Dropbox, 10 to 8 appointments, connectors within the same flow, because they all belong to the same data groups. However, you cannot create a flow that includes the SQL Server connector and Act a connector, because they belong to two different groups. If you want to create a flow that includes this connectors, you will need to move one of the connectors into the other group. So you have data loss prevention policies that is in place not only to make sure that your data is not lost or deleted, but also to make sure that these connectors don't get to communicate with each other if they are not actually from the same groups, right? So, for instance, let me just go back here. You see here we have Power BI, which is communicating with approvals, and then we also have what Word online. You can definitely have also what OneDrive for business. You can also have your Power Apps. You can have your Dataverse, or rather Common Data Service. You can have your Microsoft Power Flow for admins, and more of those. So those ones, they fall under business only data, right? So let's come. Let me try and go to the admin. Just say admin dot uh, power automate form. Okay. Let me just say power automate admin. Let me also charge my battery. Please give me a second. Okay. Okay. So, um, in Power Platform Admin Center, and what am I looking for again? Let me go back. Okay, I'm looking for DLP. Though I'm looking for actually Power Automate flows. Let's see. Okay, I can come to policies rather, and then I can come to data policies. And then under here, this is where I would be able to now look at the data policies. Though I should have access to, let me say, admin.pro.microsoft.com. It will essentially take me to the very same platform. Okay. Well, as yet, I don't have any. As yet, I don't have any policies that I would want to do. So if you have any policy, that's where you would want to then create that policy. And then in order for you to see which ones, which connectors are for data, are for business only, and then which ones are for no business data, you would essentially search. So the admin.flow.microsoft.com has been already removed. So then you would be using Power Platform as your admin. And then I will surely share a link where you can view all the business data only and no business data only information. Okay. So when a data loss prevention author selects apply to all environments, this setting also ensures that new environments have this applied, have this policy applied. So irrespective of you're going to create a new policy or not, so whenever you apply that policy, it will irrespective of you going to create a new environment or not, whenever you apply this policy, it will be applied to every to all the environments. Okay, and then now let's move on looking into Power Platform Center of Excellence Starter Kit. Okay, now the Power Platform Center of Excellence Starter Kit is a set of apps, flows, a custom connector, and a Power BI dashboard that allows organization to govern their Power Platform environments. And the tool is freely available for download on GitHub. Okay, and the starter kit is a great tool for organizations to increase the visibility of what their makers are doing in their tenant. And naturally, this tool immediately applies to two personas: cybersecurity analysis and organizational change management interests, right? And then makers that are building applications and services that introduce risks to the organization should be monitored, but makers who are automating workloads within sanctioned systems and services should be empowered and encouraged to expand on their efforts. Okay, and the starter kit does have some prerequisites, which include a global tenant admin, Power Platform service admin, or Dynamics 365 service admin role to access the tenant resources, and a Power Apps premium license for accessing Dataverse, as well as an environment with Dataverse, because the starter kit solution will need to store metadata about the apps and flows that are detected within an environment. And also we have a prerequisite of Power BI desktop to view the reports and visualize that highlight app and flow used within the tenant. And we have also a global tenant admin, Power Platform service admin, and Dynamic 365 role admin requirement. Okay, and then so the Power BI dashboard connects to starter kit database table and contains tabs that provide the following reports. And as you can see below, we have tenant details, which have total environments created in the last 30 days. We have environments creators, as well as total connectors, total custom connectors that we have. While admin analytics, which is found in Power Platform Admin Center, provides some insight into the use of Power Apps and Power Automate, it does so with the context of an environment. So this parameter makes developing a holistic picture of usage very difficult. However, using the tools that are provided in Center of Excellence, Starter Kit brings all this insight together using Dataverse and a model-driven Power App and a Power BI dashboard. So these assets plus the inclusion of flows that will sync data from Office 365 security, compliance log, and through the Power Platform Management connectors into Dataverse tables, provide the greatest level of visibility for administration. Okay, now connections would display the number of connections that have been established by the connectors, and the main purpose of the sample app audit process is to demonstrate how an admin could identify overshared or often used resources and gather further information like business justification and business impact of an outage for those applications. So sometimes you need to justify why are you using specific applications, and then also how is it important to the business, right? So having the a COE starter kit will give you that sense of reporting, and which gives you some sort of a advantage, right, into giving justifications into why do you need these apps, and if those apps are really being used or not. And you can also see the impact of those apps, and you can show the impact of those apps in the organization. Okay. And then now administrating access to applications can be done by the owner of the application. So you should always be aware of this. So access of each and every application will be granted by the owner of that application. I cannot create an application and then someone comes and gets access to it without me giving them access. And same is as a flow, same is as a model-driven app, or as a what? As a Power App, Canvas app. For users to get it, I have to share it, right? So you have to be aware of that. Okay, and then detecting when a maker has created their first app or flow and sending them some useful information to accelerate their journey will immediately imply that would immediately imply that these tools are the ones that they are permitted to use. So COE starter kit would give your users some sort of steps to get ahead once they start creating apps, and also gives them which tools they can use and then how they can use them. Okay, and then lastly, for this module, we are looking at what? Building your first workflow with Power Automate and um, Dataverse for Teams. Okay, so to do that, I'm just gonna open here. I'm going to open my Teams. So ideally, let me just uninstall this so I can show you how it gets there. Ideally, you would come to your Teams here, and then this is how it will look. And since what you want to build a flow, a Power Automate flow, and with a Power Automate and a with Dataverse, what you would need first would be Power Automate, right? And then how do you add that? You can come to apps here, and then you would search Power Apps. Power Apps like this. And then this is your Power Apps, and then you would click Add. And then once you are here, you can do quite a lot of things, eh? You can get started with Power Apps. You can learn and create Power Apps. You can actually get to do quite a few things here. So here, let me build this by teams. I can create a new. If I wanna, I can create a chatbot. I can create an app, card, whatever I wanna create. And as you can see here, I'm creating an app. Hence, I'm seeing the Power Apps Studio in here. And similarly, I can come to automate here. Okay. This is app. Similarly, I can come to Power Automate here, and then I can create a new. Can create a new flow. So let's wait for this to create. Okay, so I can come here and I can create a flow, and then it will create a flow for me. And then I can select whether I want to create from blank or I want to create from a template. And let's just select create from blank. And then essentially I will have my flow here. And then here you can see already it's a Power Apps triggered flow. I will provide information, go on and on and on and on and on and on. And close, I'll just close without saving. I'll leave. Yeah, essentially that's module 4, where we can create where we can create where we looked at Power Automate and creating Power Automate, creating flows, and then looking at the difference between business process flow as well as Power Automate, looking on what to use and when to use it. And then, yeah, we also looked at data loss prevention policy and the two types of connectors that we have, which we have your business data only and no business data only connectors. And that's about it for this one. So since well we do have some time, I'm not gonna take much, but then I'm gonna move into just touching the basics of what? Of Power BI. I'm just gonna do it for 30 minutes. So I suggest that we take a break now. Let's just take about a 10 minutes break. We will start with Power BI from 10 to from 10 to 11. Hopefully 20 minutes, 30 minutes, we should be done. We are just going to do the introduction so that when we come back, we are only left with just touch-ups. And yeah, that's it. Let's take a 10 minutes break. If we don't have any questions, of course. But if you have questions, you can gladly ask those questions. We answer them, and then we can go to a break. Okay. Let's get into looking into module 5. Module 5, it's a bit shorter. So if we push the introduction, by Wednesday, we will be able to conclude our entire course, and then we will then get into the prep of the exams, and then we will write exams. Okay, let's look into module 5 and what's covered in module 5. Let me share my screen. Okay, now, as I've mentioned also at the beginning of the module, is that I said in module 1, we will look at the 4 main components of Power Platform, which are Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, Microsoft Virtual Agent, which is a chatbot. So we have already covered 2 now. And we have covered Power Apps, we have covered Power Automate. Now we are covering Power BI. Okay, now here we will be looking at analytics, creating reports and analytics, right? Okay, the agenda of the module, we'll get started with Power BI. We'll get uh, started with get data with Power BI desktop, and we'll create reports with Power BI and Database for Teams. Now let's get started with Power BI. Now Power BI is a collection of software services, apps, and connectors that work together to turn your unrelated source of data into coherent, visually immersive, and interactive insight. Whether your data is a simple Microsoft Excel workbook or a collection of cloud-based and on-premises hybrid data warehouse, this or Power BI lets you easily connect your data sources, visualize or discover what's important, and share with anyone or everyone you want. And Power BI can be simple and fast, capable of creating quick insights from an Excel workbook or a local database. But Power BI is also robust and enterprise grade, ready to not only for extensive modeling and real-time analytics, but also for custom development. Therefore, it can be your personal report and visualization tool, but can also serve as the analytics and decision engine behind group project, divisions, or entire corporations. If you are a beginner with Power BI, so this module will get you going. And if you are a Power BI veteran, this module will tie the concepts that you already know together and fill in the gaps. Okay, now let's look at common flows of work in Power BI. Now, Power BI consists of a Microsoft Windows desktop applications called Power BI Desktop, and an online software as a service called Power BI Service. And we also have a mobile Power BI apps that are available on any devices with native mobile device apps for Windows, iOS, and Android. So there are 3 elements: desktop. The service and mobile apps are designed to let people create, share, and consume business insight in the way that serves them or their role most effectively. And a common flow of work in Power BI begins in Power BI Desktop, where a report is created, and that report is then published to Power BI service and then finally shared so that users of Power BI mobile apps can consume the information. It's very, very, very important to note this. This is the cycle how it goes. It first starts from Power BI Desktop, where you create the report. Then you go and publish the report in Power BI service. And then after publishing that report, then you can share it with users, and then they can view it from Power BI mobile. Okay, now a common flow of work in Power BI um, um, would begin directly from your from creating a report, and then after creating it you would publish it, and then you would share it, and then it doesn't always happen that way, right? But we will use that flow to help you learn the different parts of Power BI and how they complement each other. Okay, um, let's get moving. So let's look at the building blocks of Power BI. Everything you do in Microsoft Power BI can be broken down into a few basic building blocks. After you understand these building blocks, you can expand on each of them and begin creating elaborate and complex reports. And after all, even seemingly complex things are built from basic building blocks. For example, for example, buildings are created with wood, steel, concrete, and glass, or rather, they are created with, or they're created with cement, concrete, and bricks, right? And cars are made from metal, fabric, and rubber. And of course, buildings and cars can also be basic or elaborate, um, depending on how those basic building blocks are arranged. So let's take a look at these basic building blocks, discuss some simple things that can be built with them, then get a glimpse into how complex things can also be created. So here are some of the basic building blocks in Power BI. So these are visualization, data sets, reports, dashboards, and tiles. Okay, so visualization represents or visual representation of data like a chart, a color-coded map, or other interesting thing you can create to represent your data visually. That would be visualizations. So all you can see here are visuals, the graphs, the pie charts, the maps that you can see there, the graphs that you can see there, um, and the color-coded maps, um, those are visualizations, right? And then we have data sets. So data sets are a collection Apologies for that, colleagues. I got disconnected and I'm unsure at what point did I go off. Um, I'm not sure at what point I went off, but then I think I was just here. So, um, visualization, um, visualizations would be your pie charts, your graphs, your bar graphs, your color-coded maps, and other interesting things that you can create to represent your data visually. And then we have data sets, which is a collection of data that Power BI would use to create its visualization. As you can see here, we have a spreadsheet of year, month name, calendar month, births per date, and birth. Okay, and it will use this information to create visualizations. And datasets can also be a combination of many different sources which you can filter and combine to provide unique collection of data, or rather data set for you to use in Power BI. An example, you can create a data set from 3 database columns, one website, an Excel table, and online results of an email marketing campaign. And that unique combination is still considered as a single data set, even though it was pulled together from many different sources. Okay, and then we have reports. So a report is a collection of visualizations that appear together on one or more pages. And reports let you create many visualizations on multiple pages if necessary, and it lets you arrange those visualizations in whatever way best tells your story. You might have a report that about quarterly sales, product growth in a particular segment, or migration pattern of a specific um, race or animals or whatever your subject you want to create a report out of. Okay, and then we have what we call tiles. Now, tiles represents a single visualization on a report or a dashboard. As you can see here, we are looking at a single tile of a bar graph, and then we can have also a single tile of a graph, or a single tile which contains a pie chart, and so on and so forth. Okay. Um, Here we have taught and used Power BI service. Now you can create out of the box dashboard with cloud service, and with Power BI connecting to data is easy. So the Power BI service, let me show you guys where you would get that. Come here and see Power BI. Is it powerbi.com? Something of that sort. Okay, and then here we are in our Power BI service. You can create, you can browse, you have Data Hub, you have metrics, you have apps, and then you can also learn. So here are some templates that you can look at. And then this would just give you a guide on how to create um, some sort of reporting in your organization, and then how you can view them, share them, and all those things, right? Then if you need to create, you would click create here, and then you would also select whether you want to paste or manually enter data or pick a data or pick a published data set. Okay, let's see it. I can choose that, but I don't have any data, so um, it wouldn't help me. And then also I don't have any data sets as yet. But then preferably we will do this practicals actually in our next session. And then here we have the create out of the box dashboard with cloud service. So you would do that under my workspace. I shouldn't have closed that so that I should show you guys .powerbi.com. And then under here, your workspace, this is where now you would create some sort of reports. But then obviously you need to have data before you can create anything, right? So yeah, you can create a dashboard that would have some sort of a report that you would want to have in your dashboard. Now, based on the data source selected, the predefined GitHub app dashboard appears. So as you can see here, they have this is a GitHub report where you have pull requests. So it's more of a development report, right? Okay. And then on the dashboard, you can select any of the visuals and interact with them. You can select on the bottoms here, you can see we have a pull request, we have a punch card, we have issues, we have contribution, contributor commit, is it commit or comment? And then we have top 100 contributors. So you can click one of those and then you can interact with the reports that come with them. And then you can update data in Power BI services. You can also choose to update data sets for an app or other data that you use in Power BI. And then you would essentially come and select there where you would get the ability to now update information. And here we are getting data with Power BI. So that means on our next session, what we will be looking at mainly would be just how to do it more than what is this, how is it done, right? Okay, so an overview of Power BI desktop. Um, you would have an application which is free, and then first thing first you would want to install, and then the second part you would want to sign in, the third part you would want to launch and explore the UI, and then you would want to connect to data, you would want to import data from Excel, and then after that that's when you would create your report, right? And oh, that's where you transform your data actually. And then after transforming your data, you will get to now quite in a report. And then this is where you can download Power BI desktop. It requires some data, so you should have at least um, data. With me, my machine doesn't have Power BI, so we will hopefully by the next session I would have downloaded it, and then maybe I would just take a recording on how to download it, then how to install it. But then yeah, or maybe I can download it and then install it with you guys on the next session. And then this is where you would download it under Windows Core, and then you will automatically stay updated, or you can download it from the web on the download.msi, and then you must manually update it periodically. So choose whatever suits your needs. If you think you would manually update it whenever it suits you, then you should go for the web to download it from the web. Or if you want it to be updated, um, if new updates are there, you should download it from the store app, Windows Store app. Okay, and then exploring the reporting building environment in Power BI Desktop, you will begin to build reports in the report view. First, we have a ribbon. So the ribbon is, as you can see on our right-hand side here, we have a ribbon there that's on top. And then this is where you can get data. Um, you can This is where you can connect to your, you can see your data set, you can see your SQL a server, you can enter data, and you can perform quite a few things there, right? Your ribbon displays, um, the ribbon displays common tasks that are associated with reports and visualizations. And then we also have report view or canvas, which is number 2. As you can see here, this is where it goes. This is where it is. Um, this is where visualizations are created and arranged. You can switch between reports, data, and model. As you can see here, we have report view, we have data view, and we have model. And then we have pages tab, which is located along the button of the page, along the bottom of the page. And this area is where you would select or add a report. And as you can see, this is where it is. And then we have number 4, which is a visualization, pane. And then as you can see, it's a pane within a pane here. This is it's on our right hand side. And then this is where you can change visualizations, customize colors or axes, apply filters, drag columns, and do many more actions that you might possibly want to do. And then we also have a column pane. So a column pane is the 5th one, which now shows columns pane, which shows all the fields that you have. And then this is where you query elements and filters that can be dragged onto the report view or dragged to the filter area of the visualization pane. Okay, now we are looking at creating visuals. Now, to create a visual, you drag a column from the columns list onto the report view. So if you drag one and then you take it, as you can see, it will give you some sort of a reporting. Okay, and then how to publish the report. After creating a report with a few visuals, you are ready to publish to the Power BI service. And then all you need to do is just go to publish. There's a publish button there. Then you click it, and then you'll be able to publish. And then you can pin a visual to a dashboard. If you pin a visual, that means it won't get lost within the report. When you view a published report in the Power BI, you can choose to pin, you can choose the pin icon to pin that visual to a dashboard. Okay, and then we have what we call connect to data sources. And okay, we are left with just about 2 minutes. So let's just look at connecting to that, and then and and then conclude here. So let's look at connecting to data sources. Now, Power BI connects to many types of data sources, which include local databases, worksheets, and data on cloud services. And sometimes when you gather data, it's not quite as structured or clean as you want it to be. Now, to structure data, you can transform it, meaning that you can split, rename columns, change data types, and create relationships between those columns. So in this unit, we will then connect to data, import data, into Power BI Desktop, and then you can connect Power BI Desktop to many types of data sources, which include also your on-premises data bases, as well as Microsoft Excel workbooks. And um, currently there are about 60, yeah, there are about 60 Power BI specific connectors to cloud services such as GitHub, Marketo, and you can also connect to generic sources through XML, CSV, text, and ODBC. And then here it's a demo where you get data with Power BI Desktop. And then we have what we call okay, I'm left with one minute, so I can hold this slide, and then we can be done for the day. Okay, so we have embedding Power BI visuals in model apps. So Power BI visualizations can be embedded into personal dashboards in model-driven model-driven applications. So visualizations can be embedded in two ways. The first one is workspace dashboard, which is the entire dashboard is displayed in the model-driven app, or you have dashboard tile, where a tile is embedded into a model-driven application dashboard. And that's about it for our session. Now we can adjourn if we don't have any questions. And then I think we are left with about, let me see, one, two, three, and yeah, we're left with 3 slides for module 5, and then we'll be done with module 5, and then we'll get to move into module 6. Okay, so that's about it. If we have questions, do ask questions. If not, we can definitely adjourn. Any questions? I assume not. So, okay, colleagues, we can definitely adjourn. We will meet on Wednesday. Yeah, I think our session is on Wednesday. Let me confirm very quick. Yeah, we will meet on Wednesday. Finishing off module 5, and then covering the remaining of module 6. Do we have any questions? Okay, go ahead, Cecilia.
So please share again the website where we're gonna get the previous modules, the links.
Okay, no problem. You know what? I can just, after a few minutes, I can send them on the WhatsApp group chat so that you can access them. How about that?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, awesome. If you don't have any
Thank you.
questions, we can adjourn.